Hi everyone, this is FIDE Master Charles Galofre, and today I wanted to start a series of videos on chess improvement, chess training, and the road to chess Grandmaster. So practically I became a FIDE Master in 2007, and this video is going to be specifically on the evolution of a chess player. In other words, the rating progresses, the major rating breakthroughs, number of events, everything that has to do with tournaments and statistics pertaining to the tournaments, and how a player gets the rating that he gets. So how did I get to 2300, and what is my story, my evolution as a chess player? In other words, what is the reality behind my chess? In other words, what is the actual current events after over a decade and a half of playing chess? So essentially, this is my USCF ID, and this is my name, and it says here that events for this player since late 1991 are 126 events. Now, this is a very important statistic because you can only rate a player by the number of events that he has played. In other words, the more events that you get to play, the better experience that you have. Typically, people that have played over 500 events, or people that have a little bit more money and that can make it in the world of chess, I don't know, somehow they're making it to tournaments because it involves traveling and participation and all that. And so it takes a different level of financial support. So there are players that have played a lot more. For instance, if we see here, this is GM Irina Krush, and she's played a total of 610 events since 1991. So she's played 6 times more chess than I have, and that's pretty interesting. If we look at her rating graph, for example, show rating graph, we could see that her initial rating in 1991 was 1462. It probably meant that she knew how to play. Then her next rating increase was 1700, early from 1991 to 1995. Then her next rating increase was 1800, or around 1850. Then the next rating increase was 1900. By 1995, she had reached 2000 by 1995. Then she had reached 2100 by like 1996. And she reached 2300 before 1999. And she reached 2400 by 1999. So in 8 years of playing chess, she reached 2400. So from 2400, she had a major breakthrough. Let's see, 16 years later, she had a major breakthrough as a 2589 player. So that was 16 years later. So practically the first 8 years of her life were making it to 2400, and 16 years later she reached 2589. So that's not WGM, actually GM Irina Krush. So she's played, if we go back, we could see that she's played a total of general, where do we see the statistic of the amount of tournament history? She's played a total of 610 events. So there you go, 610 tournaments. So that means she has, every tournament is a minimum of 5 games, either 5 games or 10 games or 9 games, which are the 9-round tournaments. So she is a beast. So when we look at my rating, we see that my initial rating was 1109, and I went up all the way to 1500, and it took me 4 years to reach 1900. It took me 4 years to reach 1900. Then it took me another 4 years to reach 21. I actually might have reached 2200. I might have reached 2200 and went below 2200 for a second. And then from 2007 to 2011, I reached 2331. So in my first in my first 16 years of chess, I reached 2331. So I haven't, if we compare it to Irina Krush, comparing it, we'll go back to the rating graph. If we could compare it, so her first 8 years where she made it to 2400, and then it took her 16 years to reach 2589. So in my case, it took me 8 years to reach 2200, and then it took me an additional, and then I broke 2300 right after 2007. So in my first, so I reached 2300 after 8 years of chess. And so essentially I have an additional 16 years compared to Irina Krush to break 2550 or 2500. So practically I would need to play in 500 more events to be able to break 2500. And so my performances versus master play are positive. In other words, I could show you that information here. For example, in this page here, you see Charles Galofre. This is me. This is record versus opponent's rating. So if you see here, I have 100% score versus 900 rating, perfect score versus 500 rating, perfect score versus 600 rating, perfect score versus 700 rating, almost perfect score versus 800 rating, perfect score versus 900 rating, perfect score versus 1000 rating, almost perfect score versus 1100s. That's possibly when I was learning how to play. Perfect score versus 1200s, almost perfect score versus 1400s, almost perfect score versus 1500s, almost perfect score versus 1600s, 1700s 88%, 1800s 78% score, 1900s 75%. It means I'm winning close to 8. I'm winning close to 8 out of every 10 games that I play versus 1900s. Versus 2000s, I have a 69% score. That means I'm winning 7 out of every 10 games that I play versus 2000s. Versus 2100s, I'm winning 6.5 games out of every 10 versus 2100s. Versus 2200s, I have a 56% score. So now this is practically the reality of me playing in this category. The category is 2200, 2300, 2400, 2500, 2600. So the highest ratings I've played are 2600, and so it's from 2200 to 2600. That's important. If you notice, my best score versus 2500 rated players, for example, I have a 42% score versus 2500 rated players. I've won 4 games versus 2500s. I've drawn 8 and I've lost 7. So that's almost a neat score. Versus 2400, I've won 4, drawn 5, and lost 17. So that's not the best score. Versus 2300, I've won 7, drew 13, and lost 10. So essentially, I would need to play more in these rating categories to see what my rating actually is. And so when you see how well I perform versus 2500s, it means that my rating is somewhere around there. When you see I've drawn 3 2600s, So that's not entirely all too bad. It means I have a certain understanding of chess. And I've lost 4 times. So out of 7 games, I've drawn 3. So it's there is a certain understanding of chess. It's just I'm lacking the ability to play. It's my biggest challenge in playing tournaments. In other words, in the reality of chess and keeping a chess dream, or performing as a chess master, or living the life of a Grandmaster or an International Master or a FIDE Master, which is to play possibly a tournament a month. But when that's not possible, then playing at least 6 tournaments a year or 5 tournaments a year would be nice. It would be a total of 50 games. It's another reality. So if we look at this page here, these are my top 30 opponents. And when you see Eric Rodriguez, he's a 2380 rated player. Jeffrey Haskell is also a 23-something rated player. Matan Proletansky is also a 2300 rated player. Mark Esserman is an Internationl Master. He's a 2500 rated player. I beat him 1 time, I drew him 4 times, and I lost 2 times versus an Internationl Master. Brucey Lopez, I have a pretty bad score against him. I won 1 time, I drew 1 time, and I lost 4 times. He beats Grandmasters all the time. Renier Gonzalez is a Grandmaster. I've beaten him 2 times, drawn him 2 times, and lost 1 time. I have a plus score versus Renier Gonzalez. So Fabio Larota, I've won 1 time, drawn 3 times, and lost 0 time. Robert Perez is a 2500 rated player today. I've beaten him 4 times. So it's a reality of the life. I have all my opponents here. It's the reality. So essentially, the greatest discovery. Oh, you want to see someone that has played a lot of tournaments? I'll show you someone else. This is Mr. J. Richard Bonin. Richard Bonin has played a total of players events since 1991, 4,688 tournaments. He's played 4,688 tournaments. This guy, if this guy is not a Grandmaster, it's because he's really not doing something correct. He's possibly just playing a lot of chess but not really doing the effort to become a Grandmaster. Because Irina became a Grandmaster in 600 tournaments. So the question is, could I become a Grandmaster in 600 tournaments? So I'm missing 500 tournaments, so that's the reality. Richard Bonin is actually an Internationl Master. You can see his information here. If we click on, his rating is 2333 right now, and you can see his title here, Internationl Master. When we look at his latest FIDE rating, to see what it is. It's 2203. So it's 200 points below FIDE Master, and 100 points below FIDE Master. 200 points below Internationl Master, and 100 points below FIDE Master. So it's very likely that his rating is that low because he's playing plenty of underrated people, and his rating has plummeted. But it looks like he became an Internationl Master in 1985. So Jay Bonin is a fixture in American chess. He is, yes sir, he is Internationl Master. So there it is, Mr. Richard J. Bonin. You look at the total number of events, 4,688, and he's not a Grandmaster, he's an Internationl Master. So practically it took me 4 years to reach 1900, an additional 4 years to break 2200, right here before 2007, and then an additional 4 years to make it to 2331. When you see these gaps, these green lines are over 90-day gaps of not playing chess, of chess inactivity for 90 days. And so I have plenty of those gaps around some of these lines, and I had a gap here, and I had a gap here for 10 years practically, since 2009 possibly to 2019. It's a 10-year gap of not playing chess. There's a little bit of pink or purple here and a little bit of pink or purple here where I played some more chess, and essentially that's the reality of my rating. So I've played 120 events. I've played 126 events, and so the question is, could I become a Grandmaster? Could I become a Grandmaster with 500 more tournaments? That would be quite a surprise. So that's the evolution of a chess player according to their ratings, and you got to take a look at some of those statistics and how to do that through the USCF website. You click on ratings on their homepage, then you look up the player and you get to see the graphs and the statistics per rating categories and per tournaments and top major opponents and all that. It's one of the most useful tools of the USCF website.